What's happening, y'all? Hope everybody's doing well today. Give me 1 second here. As usual, I have notes to back what we're going to be talking about tonight. If I can just take 1 second here to pull that up, we can go ahead and get started. In the meantime, if you are here and you are watching this, like, share, of course. If you're not subscribed, that will also help as well too. It will help a lot. Also, feel free to support me and as I always say, my endeavors by donating to the channel, donate to the super chat. I will put my cash app here in the chat so you all can have that, and also the link to my Ko-Fi coffee, I don't know what to call it, where you can actually help me crowdfund for my comic book, the Flamer comic series. For those of you all who do not know, this is a comic series that I'm creating about a bunch of elemental-esque humanoid characters who are fighting almost in the like Dragon Ball Z style of fighting. But it actually has a lot of race allegories because each elemental power that people perceive is based off of race. So this is going to be a very interesting comic book, and it's going to go really deep into some different allegories that I've created. So for those of y'all who would like to support that project, I very much would appreciate that. And I'm putting my coffee, Ko-Fi, whatever you want to call it, in the chat for you all to see. So anyway, I see some people already in the comments. I see somebody already has a comment about what we're going to be talking about today. I'll get to that comment later. Devon, what's popping? Glad you were able to make it. Hey, baby, how you doing? I'm glad you were also able to make it as well, too. But yeah, let me just go ahead and pull up the document today with my notes so we can get into today's topic, because there is a decent amount for us to discuss. I'm not going to be on here forever, as I always say. There are other things that I have to do, but I want to make sure I come on and give you all a good show because, you know, I wasn't able to do it on Thursday. And I think I told you all already that I will not be able to do any type of YouTube live this coming Thursday as well too, as I will be out of town. I also will not be able to do it on Saturday. So what I'm going to try to give you all are a couple different things. A good live tonight, obviously, and then enough videos to keep you all busy with my channel. Goat James, salute. Appreciate you coming through, fam. But anyway, going back. So we got a couple different things we're going to be talking about with this topic for today. Now, for those of you all who are here, if you do not have my book, the Pro-Black Blurred series, Exposing Anti-Black Media Tropes the Blurred Way, you're going to want to get yourself a copy of that. You can either get it on Amazon, you can get it through my website, coolcolas.com, or you can email me directly at coolcolas07@gmail.com. These are ways you can get my book. But I'm bringing this up not just because I'm trying to sell my book, but also because a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight is actually talked about in my book. So you're definitely going to want to grab yourself a copy so you can check that out. Another thing also too, I just want to say this real quick. I just want to give myself a quick congratulations as well too. This is something off subject I meant to bring up at the very beginning, but on Instagram, I have officially reached 10,000 followers. So I'm very proud of myself for getting to that accomplishment. It took a while for me to get there, but I'm happy that I'm finally in the 5 digits. So I'm looking forward to the possibilities of what this can actually lead to with the channel and the things that we can get cooked up and get popping. So I just wanted to let you all know that I am officially at 10K on Instagram. I've done it and we collectively have done it. So we definitely are going to have a lot of things cooked up as a result. Yay, congrats. I appreciate you, baby. I very much appreciate you. But yeah, I've been talking about it quite a bit because, again, I'm very happy that it's gotten to that point. I'm definitely, I wish that I got to 10K at that point where, you know, they gave you like the blue check marks and stuff like that, because now everybody got to pay for them. But my point in saying all this is that I definitely wanted to just shout myself out for even getting to that milestone. Yes, so congrats on the 10K on Instagram, brother. I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you. Yeah, we're definitely going to keep it rocking there. We're going to keep that growing, and then we're going to grow this channel as well too and do our thing. Eventually get to other social medias and get to other platforms as well too. So For those of you all who do not know, tonight's topic is about a topic that you all voted on, which is the Black best friend trope. And this is something that I came up with myself. Now, there's other variations and variants, whatever you want to call this stuff. At this point, that is that there's different variants of this that are on the internet. You know, there's I think a site where they actually have like a tropepedia or trope Wikipedia type of thing, and then they actually discuss different tropes that people have come up with, and they keep updating it. Well, I have my own tropes. And the reason why I like to separate myself from that isn't because the things that are said on there are wrong. As a matter of fact, a lot of them are actually accurate and they actually go into the things that I actually talk about. But because my focus is not just on tropes, but on anti-Black tropes. And the reason why I focus on anti-Black tropes is because the tropes that we experience are crucial and are very disparaging, more disparaging than it can be to really any other racial. And then if we're talking about Black Americans, cultural group. So it's very important that we have something such as an anti-Black trope medium. So this is what I've created through my book, the Pro-Black Blurred series, exposing anti-Black media tropes the blurred way, and through my platform as well too. And I'll admit that I've gotten a little further away from the tropes because there's a lot of content and topics that a lot of you all like to hear me speak about. Because often, you know, I'll come on, I talk about all types of things. You'll hear me go in about these Mayo racists and WWE. You'll hear me go in about, you know, different things. Somebody samboing, somebody just doing some shit they're not even really supposed to be doing. You know, I always go into like current events. You know, I've talked about the Charlie Kirk thing. I've talked about the stuff with Mona Leo, however you say her damn name. Like, I've talked about all these different things. But it's cool for me to kind of come back to the center of what I really started off doing, which is talking about tropes, talking about anti-Black media tropes. Go, James is cracking up. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm coming back to center and talking about something that people need to really recognize and really need to look out for, because these things are heavily in the media that we consume. And I think that because these things are there and we know that they're negative, they're off-putting. So people are not watching media for that reason. And that's not what I want from people. I want people to be able to still consume media, but I just want folks to be aware of basically the shit they're watching. You know, I want them to be aware of why it's happening the way it's happening. And I want them to be aware of how to separate that from the good pieces of what they see and what they watch. Because there's a lot of shows, movies, etc., that I've seen where there's actually good messages in them, but there's also a lot of tropes as well too. And although we can, you know, enjoy the show, we have to also be aware of the things that we're actually watching. And it doesn't mean we got to throw the whole thing away. You don't have to be damn melodramatic and be like, oh, I hate when I see this, I'm not going to watch no TV. Like, stop that. You ain't got to do that shit. Just be aware of the stuff that you actually see when you're watching TV. And I'm going to help you guide through that process of being able to find out what those tropes look like and why they're happening the way they are. But today, again, we're going to be talking about the Black best friend trope. Now, before we get all into this, because I want to kind of get a little bit more deep and a little less comical and things like that into this, if I can. But so I want to start off by going into what a trope is. A trope, as I've defined it, is a common or recurring pattern in media that is typically recognized by an audience, that often involves either a person or multiple people who have some type of gimmick based on the way the story is written. And I say all of this and it sounds like a damn mouthful, but the reality is that this describes the ways that tropes can show up, because a trope can literally be a person who is positioned and gimmicked in a certain way, or it could be a power dynamic between two characters. So this is something to look out for whenever we're looking at tropes at all, because there's a lot of tropes that exist, again, that don't have the anti-Black heading, but they still have that definition. Like, for example, one trope that is very famous is I don't have a name for it, but I'm gonna describe it as best as I can. But when they basically take two characters that are bickering and fighting and shit, and then they ship them, that's like a trope. You know, you have like the man and the woman who can't get along because the woman is irritating as hell, and then the man is going back and forth with her because he's a man. And then they end up basically getting it in. So that's why I'm saying like that's a trope. Or another trope is like the kind of maybe like the face turn trope where a villain turns into a hero, or the fallen hero trope where the hero turns into a villain. These are all tropes as well too. So these are all regular things that we see. And just so you all know, because I know a lot of y'all like you're like, cool, Colas, you ain't got to tell me this shit. Like I've seen your channel hundreds of times. Why would I need you to redefine what this means? Because you literally have a whole channel talking about this. So I don't need you to tell me this. Wait a second, pump your damn brakes. I got to say this. The reason why I actually go back and I actually talk more about what a trope is, or redefine it, or re-say things I've said already, is ultimately because there's always somebody on the channel who is new, who doesn't necessarily understand the terminology. And I want them to be able to follow me as I'm speaking about these concepts. I've even had it where I've talked to people in person and they say that they like it when I actually go back and I re-say things that I've already talked about before, although it sounds like I'm a damn parrot, because they like the idea that I'm able to actually go back and give them an understanding of some terms I may talk about that they may never have heard of before. So they like that I go back and I do that, because sometimes they forget, oh yeah, cool, Colas, he uses that terminology, you know. So I've had that. And you know, babe, we've talked about this before. You know, like, you know, I've had people come up to me before who've actually said that. Peace, bro. Peace, sis. How you doing? Glad you were able to make it. I still got to get back to you, by the way. I haven't forgot about you. I just been trying to prepare for this and whatnot. And yeah, you know how it goes. You know how it goes. Right. It is important to meet people where they are. Exactly. So that's why I'm reviewing what a trope is, so everybody's on the same page with me. So this is a trope. This black best friend trope is a trope that showcases when you have a black person and a white person as best buddies. But you have to understand, although they're portrayed as best buddies or whatever, that there's a power dynamic that's going on here. There's something more to it. It's not just like there's a black person, a white person, they're portrayed as best friends. There's reasons why this trope is portrayed. And see, the thing is, y'all, the black best friend trope was prevalent very vastly in the early 2000s, especially in cartoon lore. And you saw it in a lot of Disney shows as well, too. It's something that we see today as well, but that's where I saw it the most prevalent. And if you go back, you can think about shows that you've seen where this was a dynamic. And the reason why they had it so prevalent around that time period is because this was a time where media messaging was heavy, but people didn't realize how heavy media messaging really was. So they were basically gaming you with things while you also had a lot of naivete, or were just totally ignorant of what was actually being done in the first place. That's why now in 2025, a lot of people like me can go back and tell you what was happening in 2000 when they were portraying this show and this image and that image and things like that. So some of the things that you saw as positive and some of the things that you saw as good aren't as good as they were portrayed as. So that's why it's important for us to actually go back and look at some of the things that were done, because during that time period, this is the height of when media indoctrination was something that was put out vastly, while people just had a lack of an understanding, or just speaking up at least, about the things that they were seeing. And so one of the other things that's important to keep in mind here is that the reason why the black best friend trope is very important is because it's a piggyback off of a real life narrative, that being the concept of integration. So those of you all who do not know, who just have been living under a rock, or maybe you literally are just young as hell and you just don't know, you know, we had a point where black people post Jim Crow had to live amongst themselves, had to create things amongst themselves in times of segregation. And so as a result, black people, foundational black Americans, that is, were creating these different, basically black Wall Streets, black centrics, black areas all over the United States. So a lot of people know about Black Wall Street in Tulsa, but there were Black Wall Streets that may not have been called Black Wall Streets all over America. Because you had Wilmington, North Carolina. They had a black Mecca, if you want to call it that. They had, you know, one in Atlanta. They had one in Durham, North Carolina. They had one in Chicago. And they even had one in Idlewild, Michigan. That's the one people don't know about. Because for those of you all who do not know, I'm actually from Michigan. So I actually am very aware of the vast history of the entertainment district that blacks were able to create in Idlewild, Michigan. The point that I'm trying to make with saying all this is that we had shit popping everywhere, right? So the point I'm trying to make with all that is that when we have this whole black best friend trope, it's a way to continue to push integration, because the thing about all these black mechas that were created, they were massacred by vile white supremacists who then tried to repackage it by basically saying, well, if you Negroes give into integration, then we can just have one big happy family and this and that. And so a lot of these old Negroes, as your boy Jason Black always says, decided to give into that because they wanted to reap the benefits of the dominant society. They created, or allowed at least, this integration narrative to basically flourish. And to some extent, some people can kind of understand it. And one of the reasons why they can understand it is because it was either everybody was going to get knocked off, or it was like capitulate for the time being. And even if they were going to do the second one, there was never any follow-up. There was never anything where they were trying to actually get into politics and things like that. But I'm not going to talk about the old Negroes that much today, because I really want to just get into the topic. My point in saying all this is that this led to integration narratives. And after integration was made a major thing, it was put into a lot of different mediums, and that includes in entertainment. So that's why you see in entertainment, they create these integration-based narratives. And the black best friend trope is a piggyback off of all that. So I gave you that historical context so you can connect the two and understand why it got to where it got to. Let's see what people are saying. So Cleveland from Family Guy is a perfect example. I agree 100%. You think Uncle Ruckus is one? Uncle Ruckus is just a straight Sambo. I'm just going to be honest. He is a straight Sambo, almost to the point where he's just mentally ill. He's like Jesse Lee Peterson as a damn cartoon, bro. Like, that's really what he is. So it's not even that he's a black best friend, because with the black best friend, it's almost as if the black friend is normal. Like, they're not really mentally ill. They're not really somebody who comes off like a shucking and jiving ass Sambo. They come off like somebody who's just a normal individual. So that's what separates Uncle Ruckus from like a black best friend. He's just a simple coon. I'm just gonna be honest with you. That's all Uncle Ruckus is, right? He's just a man munching on some buttermilk biscuits. That's really all it is. You know, the black best friend doesn't automatically appear that way. It's kind of like how you have like a modern day blackface image, but you won't show somebody in blackface. You'll just show a black character who's, again, shucking and jiving, acting a fool, or just acting real crazy or angry, versus the blackface images that you used to see. So it's kind of like a parallel to that, like two different things where one is blatant and one is very covered up. One is very covert, right? So let's go ahead and go back. So I just saw his comment. The black best friend trope in some ways has a lot of similarities to the black sidekick trope. So let me explain the difference between the two. So with the black best friend trope, or let's talk about the black sidekick trope. With the black sidekick trope, this is basically the idea of having a black superhero who's like an ally to a main white superhero. That's kind of more of the idea of it. It's relegated more so to comic lore, or comic TV shows and that type of thing. So for those of y'all who do not know, this is something that I spoke about in my book that I mentioned a couple times earlier. The black sidekick trope is something that I noticed first back in 2015. And I first noticed it when I saw this meme, and it says something like, why does every white superhero have some black guy who is having his back? And so when I first saw that, I was over there just cracking up. I was like, yeah, that shit is true. Like, that does happen. But then, like, I later realized that there's a real psychology as to why this went on the way it did. And for those of y'all who do not know, this was a meme that was getting passed around on Instagram when it was kind of first out. And the meme had white superheroes next to their quote unquote black sidekick. So for example, you had Iron Man next to War Machine, you had the Flash next to Joe West, you had Captain America next to Falcon, and you had Green Arrow next to John Diggle. So for those of you all who do not know, this is a mix of Marvel movies / TV shows and also some of those DC Arrowverse TV shows. But these are 4 different examples. So 4 different examples is pretty significant, and we'll get into that in a second as well. What about the light-skinned dude from the white wife from Boondocks? I can kind of see that. I can kind of see it. You know, because with the black best friend trope, the thing is that the idea is that there's different reasons why it's portrayed the way it's portrayed, and I want to kind of go into each of them and why all of these things happen, because it's not like a one size fits all. It's not one specific reason. It's not one specific mission. What's up, Colas? What's up, Pac Miller? How you doing? I'm glad you're able to make it. I saw your message. You said you were going to try to come through tonight, so I appreciate you sliding through. You're actually coming in when I'm getting into the meat of what I got to talk about today. So let's talk about the difference between the black best friend trope and the black sidekick trope. The difference between the two is that the black sidekick trope is relegated, again, specifically to superhero lore, and it usually involves some level of tokenism where the black hero or protagonist ally is there to ensure the success of the white superhero. In this role, you could more so say that it's like a combination of a limited part of the black best friend trope and in combination with the magical Negro trope. So that's what I would call the black sidekick. It's like a combination of these two. Whereas the black best friend trope is far more nuanced and also widespread through a lot of different mediums in media. And to me, the scary part about the black best friend trope is that it may not even really portray real subservience. A lot of times they mix it up. A lot of times the black person is in the lead. You know, the black best friend is the protagonist, and sometimes, you know, he or she is the sidekick. So they like to mix it up. They like to use a lot of different examples. Now I want to kind of go back to what I had just said about how I gave 4 different examples of how the black sidekick trope shows up. And this is something that I want y'all to keep in mind whenever you are looking at any sort of trope. So when it comes to the tropes and trying to identify them, the best way to identify tropes that you see in media is through what I call the air method. And let me explain what I mean by the air method, because this is something that I actually created myself. And this is something that you actually can hear about more in the book that I actually told you I wrote, the Pro Black Blurred series book. So the air method is what I would call the anti-black identification rubric. And what this entails is this, and I want you all to pay attention to this. The first time that you see an instance of anti-blackness in anything, but we're specifically talking about media, it is a potential accident. The second time that you see an instance of anti-blackness, whether it's in media or whether it's in something else, it is called a potential coincidence. And the third time that you see any instance of anti-blackness in media or any other medium, that is, we call that a pattern in practice. So what I'm basically saying is that 3 or more times that something exists, this is a pattern that's going on. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not like, oh my God, this happened 2 times. Oh, that's so cool. That's so interesting. That's so silly. It's not silly. If you see it 3 times, they're doing the shit on purpose. That's basically what I'm trying to tell you. Let's see here. That is why Luke Cage is not a part of the Avengers. Luke Cage is a great example to me of an authentic black character. So that's why I always appreciate his character. I also just like his powers in general. I like the bulletproofness. I like the demeanor. And I also, and this is something that me and brother Marcus Bowden have talked about quite a bit. Shout out to him. I like the fact that his villains, although they're villains and they're opposing him, kind of have respect for him as well too. I do think that that's really interesting. And I think the show, the Luke Cage show, really captured that, which is something I really appreciate. Salute, Colas. Salute, Rap God. Appreciate you coming through. And he's saying what's up to the chat. Okay. Do you think the new Green Lantern will have traits of this trope? Man, I think that the new Green Lantern is going to have his own tropes that are separate from this, to be quite honest with you. Because it could be a thing. It could be a thing. It could. So the answer to your question is it could. But I think that we already got enough problems with Green Lantern. A lot of people don't like me to touch on Green Lantern, but Green Lantern is a mantle pass. And some people like to argue against me and say, that's not a mantle pass. That's authentic. No, it's not. It's not authentic because you already had white Green Lanterns before, right? So, and to me, you know, when you look at like mantle passes, it's just as much an internal thing as it is external. It's not even a thing of, oh, here's the mantle of being Captain America, so now you're Captain America. It's not just that. It's also the idea of having positioned a character already in that role, and now who's white, and now you're positioning a black character proceeding that character in that same role. So he's already got enough shit to contend with. DC Cyborg is a perfect example. Yes, he is. Well, you know what? Here's the thing about him and the black best friend thing. I agree, but that's not the thing that stands out to me about Cyborg. Like, I don't disagree with you, Rap God, but it's not the thing that stands out. What stands out to me about with Cyborg is what I would call the black infantile trope. And I'm going to explain what I mean by the black infantile trope. A lot of times, like, and DC does this shit, they have these little teeny bopper shows that I always talk about. And, you know, they have like Teen Titans and all this and Young Justice and all this other stuff. And then they'll just load these shows with black characters. And these are all characters that could be standalone characters, have their own show, have their own movie, but somehow they've got crowbarred and shoveled into being in some show with a bunch of teenagers who are crime fighters. Like, think about it. You know, you got Cyborg, you had what's her face, the B chick. Why can't I think of her name right now? Why can I not think of her name right now? Why can't I think of her name? It'll come to me. You have Hot Spot. He was a black guy. You know what I'm saying? You had a black version of Wally West that came out as well, too. I'm going to look this up because it is going to bother me if I don't think of who the B chick was in DC. Hold on. Why can't I think of Bumblebee? Why can't I think of that, y'all? I had a brain fart. But anyway, she's black. So that's already 3 black characters right there. They love to just shove a bunch of teeny bopper black characters into these shows and then make it seem like, oh, they're characters that have to kind of get their skills up before they can be the main blah, 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 blah. They love to do that shit. So that's my problem with Cyborg. Static is a token. Yeah, we're going to talk about Static in a minute. If you're in a room full of white people and you're the only black FBA there, you are a token. Sometimes people don't have a choice but to be one in some circumstances, but to your point, I definitely get where you're going with it. Okay, so some people are just saying salute to people. That new Green Lantern guy is not black American. I don't think he is either. Bro, what about Jax from Mortal Kombat? We'll talk about Jax in a minute because like that's kind of nuanced and layered as well too. Young Justice with anti-black men. The running joke was the black guys had no girlfriend. That's what they do. They try to make the black men in these different lores asexual because the same thing is true with Marvel. I mean, you ain't see Rhodey with no women. You ain't seen Sam Wilson or with no woman. I mean, he's been in 2 different things and he's been the head guy in 2 different things. Because think about it. He's in Captain America 4. And I thought they were going to put him with the little like mammy chick who was, you know what I'm talking about? The chick that was like the servant of that one dude of like of my man who ended up turning into Red Hulk. I thought that, you know, she was going to be like his little love interest because I saw a little thing between them, but they couldn't even do that. And then like they didn't give him anybody in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So they love to do this thing where they make black men asexual, like they're not somebody who's worthy of having a real love interest in a real love story, the same way that Iron Man was, the same way that Captain America was, the same way that Thor was, the same way that Doctor Strange was. All these characters have love interests, but these black characters for some reason are just not allowed to have love interests. That's what they like to do. Is Darius McCrary, who played Bumblebee, innocent? He recently got arrested overseas. I heard about that. That's something I want to dig more into. I haven't really like got a chance to really look into it more. You said he played, but when he played Bumblebee, I thought Bumblebee's a girl, ain't she? So I don't know, refresh me on that. I still hate that they didn't give Don Cheadle his own War Machine movie instead of Ironheart. Don't even get me started on that. Pac Miller, don't even get me started on that. But that's the problem with Miles. There's a lot of problems with Miles as well too. Miles kind of has like the Green Lantern effect as well too. There's a lot of silly negroids who are kind of butthurt every time I start talking about, you know, what happened with like the Miles Morales thing and how that's not authentic representation as well too. I don't go back and forth with them no more. I just tell them to just suck it up and cry about it, because there is a lot that is happening with that character as well too. Miles Morales is also a mantle pass. Matter of fact, he's the perfect example of a mantle pass. But well, like I said, another topic for another day. Bumblebee from Transformers. Oh, okay, got you. Okay. See, I'm talking about Bumblebee from DC, so that's why I was in a different mindset. I was in a different headspace. But anyway, let's go back to the topic real quick. So To me, again, the scary part about the black best friend trope is that it may not even be about subservience. A lot of times they mix it up. Sometimes it's the black best friend is the protagonist, and sometimes he or she is the sidekick. And I want to kind of just go into a few examples so that y'all kind of understand why I said that this trope is something that is very prevalent. So I want to give a disclaimer before I go into these examples, right? The disclaimer is that nothing is one size fits all, because I know a lot of people like to pick shit apart and say, hey, cute girl, you know about that. This is not right because this and that. I don't want to hear all that shit. Okay. Nothing is one size fits all. Okay. So everything that I'm saying is not going to be absolutely linear. And I don't want to be attacked by the damn all police. I do not want to be attacked by the all police. And I don't want to hear that. Okay. But the reality is that this is typically what will show up. And I'm going to give you a few examples so that you understand the way the black best friend trope can actually happen. Okay. So the first way that it could happen, y'all, is you'll have a white protagonist and a black best or a black friend who is an ally. So an example of this will be Iron Man, Arrow, Captain America, and Thor. These are great examples of where you will see this type of dynamic. And the reason why this happens is because it positions black characters as generic clones of white heroes. Because think about it. War Machine is like a weird clone of Iron Man. Falcon was a weird clone of Captain America. Then he became Captain America. You know, the Hyman doll, or however you say his name, the black dude played by Idris Elba, he was like a clone of Thor, but he didn't have the hammer, so he was just like a knockoff of Thor. And then you even have an Arrow where you had John Diggle. John Diggle wasn't even a well-renowned comic character. He was just somebody they created for the show. But what was John Diggle doing? He was going around shooting arrows too. At some point he became an archer his damn self. He was like Timu Oliver. He was like Diet Oliver, you know? So that's why I'm saying, like, they had this thing where they would like to portray a white character who is a main hero and then a black character who is like the sidekick ally. So typically you'll see that a lot on these superhero shows. In some cases, the black person is silly or comic relief, though. They're not always serious, because a lot of people I just named are very serious characters. Sometimes they're real silly, you know? Sometimes they're characters who are there for the good of just making white folks laugh. And sometimes they are just moral support for the greater good of that white superhero. Because in the case of like the Flash, for example, you had Joe West. And some people argue, Joe West is not his ally. Stop that shit. Okay, stop all the nitpicking. Stop all the damn nitpicking. The reality is that he was positioned as somebody who was an aide and an advice master to Barry Allen. Like, let's just stop this nitpicking shit. That is really annoying, by the way. I can't stand when silly ass Negroes do that. But going back, so Joe West was still somebody who was there for moral support. He was an ally. So an ally can be defined as multiple different things. An ally doesn't have to be somebody who has superhero powers. An ally can actually be somebody who is just there to help the superhero, right? The white superhero, that is. So that's why I said earlier that the black sidekick trope, because this is kind of like the black sidekick trope, is a combination between a limited piece of the black best friend trope in combination with the magical Negro trope. Because sometimes these black people, again, aren't crime fighters, even if they are a great value version of that white superhero. Sometimes they just give advice and they just say, Barry, did you think about doing this before you ran up in the school? Or, Iron Man, did you think about your calculations on your suit before you went out and fought crime? They do shit like that, okay? They're like moral support. They can't really do shit, and they're presented as weak. So the only way that they can actually give any type of real substance is if they provide some type of mouth cash to the white main superhero. And this also, by the way, this setup, white protagonist and black friend who is an ally, can also lead to other tropes as well too, such as black carbon copies, mantle passing, and magical Negroisms, as we just talked about. Because a lot of times it leads to a character who either ends up taking up the mantle of that white superhero as if they've been passed some type of honor that was created from somebody white, or they are a character who was like race swapped and they originally were white, but they were race swapped for the case of diversity in a show. So sometimes they do shit like that. So you'll see these people who are buddied up because the black person is subservient to that white person. So you'll see that quite often. I think I see a comment here that actually relates to the topic. What about Jimmy Olsen being bigger than Superman? You know, now that you brought it up, I want to say something about Jimmy Olsen because you brought it up. Jimmy was race swapped, he was race swapped in Supergirl, right? And Jimmy Olsen was an ally, and you could say that he was one of the best friends to Kara Zor-El, right? They didn't have to make him black. They could have kept him being a white dude with red hair, but they didn't. They made him a black guy who was bald, you know? And he was a black guy who was in there basically banging every white chick up in there. Because think about it, he was messing with Kara. He was up there banging Lena Luthor. He was messing with all them white women. My man was caught up in the snowstorm. But anyway, y'all, my point is that like they turned him black, and they didn't have to. So he's an example too, you could even say. So I'm glad you actually brought him up. Why did Anthony Mackie play Captain America? Wasn't he Falcon in the Winter Soldier Wars? You might be getting some of those titles mixed up, but basically Anthony Mackie was the Falcon character in the Captain America series. And eventually the mantle was passed down to him for him to become Captain America. And then in Captain America 4, he was officially Captain America. So that's basically what happened there. So yeah, they like to do little stuff like that. Now, the next setup that they typically have with these black best friend characters is where you have a black protagonist and a white ally. So instead of having a white protagonist and a black ally, sometimes they have a black protagonist and a white ally. So good examples of this, and we're actually going to step a bit away from comics, is the Proud Family, Static Shock, that's why I said a bit, and That's So Raven. And this shows you that this type of thing doesn't just show up in cartoons or comic lore. It also shows up in kind of like a regular TV sitcom. Like this thing shows up there as well too. You know, I saw that it happened in a lot of these Disney shows where, you know, they had to insert like one white person who was like the best friend of a main black protagonist. You see this quite often. Yep. Rap God said Kim Possible had a black token. Absolutely. That's 100% true. Kim Possible is another good example of this. See, y'all are helping me. Shit. Y'all are giving me extra examples from what I said. And the reason why that's important is because I told y'all, when things happen, the first time is a potential accident. The second time is a potential coincidence. The third time is a pattern in practice, right? So I gave you 3 examples, and Rap God here just provided you with the 4th, right? Because Wade was a token. And Wade was a lot of tropes. Wade was also the black tech support. I mean, the dude was like a fat slob, and he was in there drinking soda and tinkering with mechanics and shit. He had no real like fighting abilities and anything. Hell, Ron Stoppable was more of a fighting force than him. I mean, dude was just like sitting there tinkering around, just saying, Kim, you know, you gotta go left, you gotta go right. That's how you can find Shigo. Like that was him the whole fucking time. So my point in saying all that is that he was again like a black sidekick in that matter. So yeah, Black Panther in the 70s was treated as a token, with the Avengers mostly kept alone in Avengers Mansion until it was he who single-handedly beat Graviton. Absolutely. I remember that too. I remember that. I'm with you 100%, Azale. All right. So going back to this example of black best friend or black protagonist and then white ally. So another reason why this happens is it's a subtle way for the dominant society to create the facade that racism has been tremendously mitigated through white and black friendships. So sometimes they'll portray these relationships as if to say that racism itself is an anomaly. It's not something that happens very often anymore. And the way that we show this is by presenting black and white friendships. So a lot of times they'll do this thing where they put a white character in there to show, oh, we are now in an integrated society where racism isn't a thing. We are all just people trying to find our people. And race is not a factor. So The dominant society has been creating these images over and over and over again to try to make it seem like we're all one big happy family. Black people and white people are living together in harmony. You know, race is not something that has anything to do with what's happening in this world anymore, because here are black people and white people just being friends and holding hands and shit. So sometimes they'll portray this to show that. And then they'll double down on that by making the black person the lead. If the black person is the lead, I'm like, they're like, what are you mad about? We made the black person the main character. So there's no reason for you to be upset that racism isn't happening, because one, we made the black person like the top dog. And two, we showed that through this friendship, this black and white friendship, racism isn't happening the way that you say it's happening. See, y'all are naming, I'm looking in the damn comments, y'all are naming examples. Y'all are going even further into detail than what I had said. I mean, think about it. Like, you all just mentioned the Steve Harvey show. That's another great example. You mentioned the Parkers. That's another great example. I mean, like, this is way deeper than the way that people actually make it seem. This was a common thing that didn't, again, just happen in comic books. And it didn't just happen in cartoons. It also happened in TV sitcoms that we enjoyed. And we're going to get into, again, the crux of why it happened in a lot of black shows in just a second. So you need to understand that the dominant society is trying to play a psychological game. You know, the idea is that they're trying to mess with your psyche while also covering their asses. So a lot of them will try to portray these types of messages in order to, again, make it seem like they're not racist, or that racism is not really occurring that much, while also trying to make it seem like there's some level of promotion for black people, or black people being put on in a major way. But I also want to add this into the fray as well, too. In some cases, they're psychological, because they're kind of laughing and pointing at us and making little side jokes and pot shots. And one of the things that they're also doing is they're somewhat playing on this idea that black people are so inviting. This idea that black people would invite anybody to the cookout. And that's the one white person who they invited to the cookout. You know, you got this one white person who was accepted in the community, and now you're one of us. So now Zoe from Proud Family is one of us. Now Richie from Static Shock is one of us. Now Chelsea from That's So Raven is one of us. So they like to just take in characters and then just say that, oh, now they're part of the family as well, too, because it's a way of psychologically talking about the nature of black people and making a play on it. Because let's be real, as foundational black Americans, we invite a lot of people in, or in the past we did. Now we're checking that shit up front. We are now. But like a lot of us were just inviting people in like their family. Like that was a big thing, while inviting white people to the cookout. And the dominant society is aware of this. You know, no matter what you think, it's not a thing that's just known in our community. They know what's going on, and they know how to portray it in lore to make it seem like it's a real thing. And if they portray it enough times, they'll make it seem like it's really, really a real thing. Like Mike, I think, could be another. Like Mike is another. That's what I'm saying, y'all. Y'all are, I'm proud of y'all. I'm proud of y'all, because y'all are actually going even further into detail with the stuff that I'm actually saying tonight. So I'm so glad that those of you all who are in the comments right now are in the comments, because you all are giving even more examples, and you're really critically thinking about this stuff. And it's actually even bigger than what I had been actually saying. Also with this setup, again, black friend who's a protagonist, white friend who's an ally, it often results in them crowbarring an episode where they try to tackle racism. And let me explain what I mean by that. Some of these shows will have it where there'll be an episode where a white person will be racist to the black main character. And then the whole thing will be centered around the black main character being exposed to anti-black racism, and that white person being there with them while they're experiencing this. And, you know, we've seen this in shows such as I think the Proud Family did an episode. That's So Raven definitely did an episode. And Static Shock definitely did an episode as well, too. And what I noticed some things. I noticed some things that really bothered me about this, because there'll be a lot of people be like, oh, they really talked about racism. They really did a number with this one. See, that's why I like this show. They tackle racism. They were keeping it real. So you know, Negroes will do that stuff, but we really need to get into why that is problematic. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed, the problems that I noticed with this is that often when they show episodes where the black protagonist experiences racism and they have a white friend by their side, a lot of times that white person is either positioned as a social justice warrior or they're positioned as being more harmed by the racism. So a lot of times you'll see it where the white person is super upset, you know, that they had a parent or a friend or a family member who was racist, or they'll have, you know, a thing where the white person is like standing up more, and they'll be like, that's bullshit, that's bullshit. You know, they'll be kind of like having that type of energy, like where they're trying to call out the racism more than we are. So they do that because it's a way for them to try to make themselves look good, right? They try to make themselves seem like they're social justice warriors who stand with us and stand by us. So oftentimes they'll try to make themselves look good while actually portraying and admitting that racism indeed does exist. That's why I said they're real psychological with this shit, y'all. They're really trying to do a number on your psyche by portraying these types of images. Again, it makes them seem like they're either victims of racism or at least bigger victims of racism than we are. It also brings out that good white theory, you know, the idea that, again, racism is an anomaly because it's like, yeah, you have white people who are racist, right? But then you have good white people. So it's an anomaly. It's just a concept of bad people, not racism. So again, they're trying to take racism out the equation when they create these types of images. Also, when they do this setup, the black friend protagonist, white friend ally, they sometimes do it because it's a way to besmirch black shows from being recognized as a fully black show, or having black movies being recognized as fully black movies. To them, that's too much promotion for black people. You all have to understand that the dominant society practices something that I analyzed that I would call happy medium pacification. And some of y'all may not even know what that is, but I'm going to explain it to you. Happy medium pacification is when they literally take elements of black culture, or they just take black people, they insert it into their lore, into their TV show, into their movie, or whatever the case is. Or they may even do more than one. They may add two characters in there, right? Or three. But then they will also insert white characters in there. And then there'll be Asian characters. There'll be your so-called people of color that'll be in these different shows alongside those couple characters that are in there. And then they'll kind of mix it up. That's happy medium pacification. I'm going to tell you why. Because they put in enough black characters that black people who are already scraping the barrel will be happy with the fact that they put black characters in there in the first place. They also at the same time are covering their asses because they're saying, well, we're not racist because we portray black people. And then the third thing that they're doing at the same time as these two things is they're basically saying that we're going to do it enough where we're not seen as racist for not putting you on and putting you on screen in a major way, but we're not going to give you full promotion so that you can say this is a black show. This is quote unquote black excellence. They want to actually try to uplift and put out tokenism. So that's why they'll put out a few black people or one black person in order to have them as the token person that, again, justifies that they are indeed not racist to an audience of people. That's why I said they practice happy medium pacification. It pacifies enough black people that they can't be mad because black people are being shown, while also creating a happy medium because they're not promoting you enough at the same time as well, too. So there's two different things that are actually happening with this. Boy Meets World had two black tokens. And here's the thing with that. If y'all recall, too, when it came to Boy Meets World, remember the chick who played Angela on Boy Meets World, she talked about all the racism that she actually faced while she actually was on that show. You know, with Boy Meets World, you know, they had like all these white characters. They had like Corey, they had Topanga, they had Sean and all these other people, right? But then like they had you know, the black character Angela, and you know, not only was she a token in the show, she was actually treated, she was actually experienced racial discrimination while she actually was on set, and she talked about it. Trina McGee. That's her name. Thank you. Thank you, Rap God. Trina McGee. Yep. Trina McGee talked about her experiences being on the set of Boy Meets World. So yeah, that's definitely something that I also have noticed as well too. Now, the next way that the black best friend trope shows up is something I'm going to split into two, because I want to talk about two different things when it comes down to that type of thing. So sometimes you have this thing where they have black best friends, but they're not protagonists, they're antagonists. And sometimes you have it where there's like, it's like bully groups. So you'll have like a black friend who is the bully, but he or she is the main bully, and then the white friend who is the ally. And in some cases you have it where the white friend is the main bully and the black friend is the ally. So an example, and this one is going to be, again, I said this isn't going to be a perfect fit. It's going to be like, in some cases, shoving an oval into a damn circle. But this is one example of that. An example of a black friend who is a bully, or in this case, I guess like a gang member, and he's the leader, and a white friend who is the ally, is in Power, because you had Ghost and Tommy. In Power, Ghost was the main character and Tommy was the ally. They had a gang group, right? Tommy is, and here's the thing. If you look at the way it's set up, there's a certain way that they're actually portraying these characters as well too. Tommy is seen as lovable and loyal despite being a damn thug and a cold-blooded killer, while Ghost is portrayed more so as more calculating, cold, and detached. You know, it's a way to make the white guy look cool while also portraying how it's okay to invite the white person to the cookout just because they have swagger. And also to think about too, even with Power, think about how ironic it is, because, you know, you had it where Tommy was often called Uncle Tommy, right? He was called Uncle Tommy by a bunch of black boys, because you had him being called Uncle Tommy by Tariq St. Patrick, that was a Ghost's son. And then later you had him being called Uncle Tommy by D-Mac on the show Force, on Power Book 4 Force. So this is what I mean by, like, you know, sometimes in these kind of bully, or in this case gang groups, you'll have a black bully leader, or in this case gang leader, and the white person is the ally. 50 Cent is a black token friend to Eminem. Don't even get me started on 50 Cent. And here's the thing. I like the stuff that 50 does. I like 50's work. I like his music. But you're absolutely right 100% about that, right? Because even though 50 does a lot of jokes and stuff like that, notice that he doesn't really have that same type of energy when he goes on a lot of these white platforms. He doesn't really do that. He only does that with the black community. So I kind of noticed that. Now, look at by the way, but before I go back to that, I just want to go back to the ironic thing about them calling him Uncle Tommy. It's kind of weird how he's called Uncle Tommy, but he's like a white dude. And it's almost as if, like, you know, it's kind of funny because the whole Uncle Tom thing is something that a lot of black people will call black people who are sellouts, basically. So it's kind of weird. It's really ironic how they kind of threw all that shit together. But anyway, going back. So then in some cases you have a white friend who is a bully and is the leader of the bully group. And then you have a black friend who is like the ally. So examples of this would be like the shows As Told by Ginger and then Jimmy Neutron. And those shows, remember, Jimmy Neutron there was a character named Cindy and there was a character named Libby. Cindy was like the white, she was like this white girl, and she was the bully, like, who was like the rival of Jimmy Neutron. And then you had Libby, who was like the black girl, who was like the ally to Cindy. So they had that going on. And then As Told by Ginger, they had this character named Courtney Gripling, and this other character named Miranda. Miranda was like the black girl, and Courtney was like the white girl. And Courtney was the leader in that bully group as well. So a lot of times when they make these little bully groups and stuff like that, the reason why they're doing it is because they're trying to make it seem like evil is just evil. You got black people who are evil. You got white people who are evil. Evil is evil. You know, there isn't racism. It's just evil. You know, it's just, you know, anybody can be oppressive. Blacks can be oppressive. Whites can be oppressive. Blacks can be malicious. Whites can be malicious. So they like to try to make the message that they can kind of neutralize racism, right? They're trying to make it seem like racism ain't a thing. It's just evil people being evil. That's all it is. It's just bad is bad. These people are good. These people are bad. That's just what it is. So white people like to play this like fake ass neutral game where they make it seem like racism isn't a thing because racism is just generalized evil acts in general, in the thing of somebody just picking on somebody just because. This is dangerous, and I'm gonna tell you why this is dangerous. This is dangerous because anytime that and I'm not gonna say anytime, but like just about every time and most times when you see racism in 2025, it's going to be some level of covert racism, right? And if you look at, and we're going to take off our media hats for a second, we're going to put on our workplace and employment hats just for a quick second. Anytime that you go into any workspace, any job, or any type of situation where you're mistreated, especially like if it's racially, you have to have some type of proof if you're going to go to a lawyer or whatever the case is and say, hey, I was mistreated at this job or whatever the case is. What a lot of the people in the dominant society like to do, like the suspected white supremacists, they'll try to neutralize it so that you don't really have a ground to stand on. Because, you know, it could be a thing where, you know, you're a black man and then you have a white female boss and she mistreats you, she nitpicks at you, she tries to create a paper trail on you, she's always trying to point you out at me, she's always trying to do all this crazy shit to you, right? And you know it's racially because she's not doing it to other white people. And so what taking out the race out of the equation does is it makes it seem like, well, she's not racist, she's just a mean-ass person. So that gives you no ground to stand on. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it as normal as possible that there's no ground to stand on for black people by taking race out of the equation. The reason why I say this is dangerous is because this is not what's really happening, but media images often, when portrayed in mass and over again, make it seem like the issue tends to not be racism itself, but actually the act of someone just being mean. So I want to be clear that this is actually a very vile act, and this is something that we really need to keep our eyes peeled about because they do this shit all the time. So I want to be clear that this is something that even this type of imagery is trying to portray. So think about, again, shows like As Told by Ginger and As Told by Ginger. As Told by Ginger portrayed this a lot, and let's go into it. So one thing I notice is that in some cases, even when you have a bully group, even when the white person is the leader of the damn bully group, sometimes the black person is worse. And they do that shit on purpose. And As Told by Ginger is a great example of this because, for example, you had the character Miranda. And in some cases, she was worse than Courtney. She was like, because there was a time where Courtney was cool with Ginger, who's the main character, and Miranda was all jealous and shit of their relationship. You know, she wanted her white best friend back. And then sometimes you had it where Courtney and Miranda would fall out. Ginger would take up for Miranda, and then Miranda would then go back to like treating Ginger like shit. So even when the black person is presented as an ally to that white person who is in that bully group, they both are bullies. Sometimes the black person is portrayed as worse and more aggressive and more vile. So they like to do that as well too. So even if there's two bullies there, they're like, okay, the black one is just morally worse. So they like to do that type of shit too. They try to make it seem like the white person is almost like the brains of the mission. They're the bully, but they're the more calm of the two bullies. And the black person is more like that tame bulldog who has malicious ways, who they let off of their leash whenever they need to basically get somebody. That's really what they're trying to do with that one. I talked a lot here. Let me go to some of these comments. I see a lot. Y'all said a lot of stuff in there. Y'all damn near were having a conversation on your own while I was talking about this. I need to scroll all the way up. Give me a second, y'all. Right. This shows more examples of the pattern in practice. Cleveland from Family Guy was a token friend to Peter Griffin. He absolutely was. I agree. Saw Steve Harvey show comment. The TV show from the 90s, Mantis, was the example of the black lead being surrounded by all white cast. I remember that. The Parkers, okay, I saw that already. This is a huge side note, but that terrible remake of White Men Can't Jump with Jack Harlow kind of came to mind. I didn't even see the remake. I need to check that out. I need to check that out because a lot of these movies too also portray a lot of these tropes. People just don't realize it because they're like, oh, I'm just trying to enjoy the movie. I'm just trying to enjoy the movie. No, you need to look out for this shit, yo. You need to make sure that you're looking out for the tropes that you see when you're watching the things that you're watching. That's just the bottom line when it comes down to it. Let's see here. The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis and Damon Wayans had a good friendship. Okay. Like Mike, we already talked about that. Training Day. Now, Training Day is a little different. Training Day was just more so you had a black antagonist who was antagonizing a white person. So that's what that was like, where he was sitting there, he was fucking with Jake the whole time. That I wouldn't call that like an allyship type of thing. It was just that he was like Denzel's character was the villain, and he was like the poor, helpless white victim. That's really what it was. Let me see. All that had black and white actors. Didn't correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't one of the actresses who was on all that, didn't she have an issue like on the set of all that? Correct me if I'm wrong, y'all. That may have been a thing, but I truly can't remember. I thought that she like said something on TikTok about having some issues with some of the people on set, like maybe having the issue with Amanda Bynes or something like that. I thought that somebody had said something like that, but I can't quite remember. So correct me if I'm wrong about that. Let's see here. Every show on CBS, absolutely. King of Queens, Kevin James' character is friends with the black dude. Yep. Power had some white actors. Next Friday, Day and Roach. 50. Okay, we already saw that. The Gross Sisters from the Proud Family. The Gross Sisters were just ashy black chicks. That's really all it was. They were just like ashy ass little black girls who and they try to make a play on that too, because they think about it, they named them after lotion. Like, how the hell they gonna be ashy and you name them after lotion? Because you had Olay, you had Gina, like Neutrogena, and then you had Nubia like Nivea, I guess. So like, yeah, they named them after lotion. I was like, that shit is crazy. Blacks in bully groups in movies or TV shows are usually tag-alongs trying to fit in. Yeah, and that's the other thing too. They're like tag-alongs, but notice that they're always like more aggressive too. Like they're overly trying to prove themselves. Even the show Recess, there's a black token. I remember they had the Vince character. Rugrats, Angelica and Susie, I think was her name. So yeah, Susie was almost like a magical Negro. That's the thing. Susie was like the black girl that came and just fixed all the shit that was going on, because all the babies had problems. Tommy was just wandering off to where the hell ever. You know, Chucky was scared of his own damn shadow. And then you had it where Angelica was always just treating the other babies like shit. And so Susie was in there to be Angelica, you stop treating them like that. That's really what it was. Like, she was like the magical Negro. She was there to fix all the problems that were in the show. They always need a black character to complement the white bully villain. It could be a completely white movie and a black bully randomly appears. I noticed that too. Or it'll be like a show, like this is a common trope, and Professor Black Truth actually talked about this. This is a common thing that they like to do, like almost like a trope they like to do with shows. And they'll have this dynamic where you have like these kind of like teen shows, and you know, you'll have this teen maybe superhero who's in school, and you know, they're around some bullies, and then it'll be a bully group, and randomly one of the bullies will be black, and then and the main bully will be white. You know, they like to insert little stuff like that. I notice that they like to do those types of things. It's like a common thing where it happens a lot, where schools or like some type of middle school or high school or something like that is involved in this process of having a bully group, and the white person is a bully and the black person is the sidekick or the best friend to that white bully. And they'll just randomly, again, like Great Black Shark said, be inserted in there. Or not Great Black Shark, I'm sorry, Mob and Mike. I'm sorry. I saw the icon and I'm like, wait, that's Great Black Shark. That's Mob and Mike. My bad. Let's see here. There was racism and all that. That's what I thought. That's what I heard. Malcolm in the Middle had a disabled black token. I remember that. I'm late. Did you mention Ned's Declassified? I didn't, but Ned's Declassified is an example of this, because they had the Cookie character. Because like Cookie was like, but that falls more under like remember earlier when I was talking about how you have a white friend protagonist and a black friend who was an ally? It kind of goes into that. But and in one instance, I said that in some cases they'll have the black person who's like silly or comic relief. Remember, Cookie was like overly goofy in the show. Like, think about it. Ned was all normal and shit, and then Cookie was sitting there just looking like a damn dweeb. So, like, they literally, like, crowbarred these types of characters in there on purpose. And that's actually, it's funny you brought up Ned's Declassified, because that's actually what I had in mind when I was talking about that. Even in TV shows, even in sports talk, shows like ESPN First Take, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless always debating each other. Stephen A. often skips token friends. Stephen A. is just the Sambo of Sambos. I mean, he He is literally one of like your top notch Sambos. He's like the Sambo stage that you get to before you get to a Jesse Lee Peterson. Like he ain't almost like mentally ill. Like it's almost like a show he's putting on, but he's damn close. Like he's like that. You know what I mean? Zoe 101 was a white show with some black token friend. Yep, that was another good example. Zoe 101 was another good example. I agree with that. All right, y'all. So another thing that we need to talk about here is why this kind of like what in a perfect world, in a perfect media world, what makes sense? What should be happening? What would I like to see happen? The thing is that I don't mind shows that are actually somewhat racially divided. And this is an unpopular opinion. This is something that a lot of people are not going to say. I don't mind a racially divided show to a certain extent. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. And the reason why I say I don't mind it is because oftentimes when you mix a lot of these characters and you do a lot of these types of things, it ends up being a thing where white people produced it, white people wrote it, and then they got black people who are presented as tokens on these shows to fill out the script that they created for them, and a lot of times having them looking real silly. And I think that sometimes it's better to just see our people put on our own thing and have our own characters that are really about us, that portray us in a way that we deserve to be portrayed in. And then sometimes I just like to see the dominant society portray characters within their own lore, doing things and having drama and all this other stuff. Like, I don't mind an all-white show. I really don't. Like, you don't have to insert a little bit of diversity to make me feel good about your racism. I don't give a fuck. I know your ass is racism. You ain't gotta do that to try to make it seem like, you know, you're not racist. I know your ass is already racist. Shit. My point though is that if you just want to have a show where you know, you have nothing but white people, just do it. Just do it. I'm cool with it. As long as you're not continuing to put in these weird ass tropes where, you know, you're presenting my people in a way that's negative. I mean, like, I really don't care what you do with your own people. So I'll just sit around and I'll just sit there and laugh and enjoy it. So unlike most people, I truly don't really give a damn if they actually had an all-white show. I truly don't. They're not going to do it because they're so paranoid about not being perceived as racist or thinking that kind of vilifies them or I guess like removes them from being considered racist. But I truly just don't give a shit. If you want to have a show with all white people, do that. Let's go ahead and see all that damn degeneracy in white society, because there's a lot of racist stuff that goes on. And it leads to the idea that the degeneracy was already there to create this mentality that you need to oppress people in order to be in power. So let's see it. Let's see the shit. That's my thing. Let's see the shit. Victorious was another one with Leon Thomas. I remember that, who I fuck with, by the way. I want to be clear with y'all. Although this is something that I typically see, I'm not saying that it's something that I don't enjoy at times, or I don't enjoy these shows, or there aren't good pieces of these shows that I can actually fuck with. You know, I do recognize that these are things, but we also need to know that there's better ways to actually write, you know, stories than what we've actually seen on TV. These are things that we had no choice but to watch because, again, we grew up, you know, we had the TV. We didn't really have this thing where we were producers and can manipulate, the way stories were being told and things like that. But now we have a lot of, you know, black people who are going out, creating their own stories, creating their own lore, creating their own comic books, and creating the stuff that they would like to see on TV. A lot of us are doing that at this point, which I think is positive. So I want to be clear. I'm not telling you to not enjoy the shit that you're watching. I'm telling you to be aware of what you're watching and what they're trying to do. So you can enjoy it while also recognizing how they try to do some slick shit right there, but you ain't getting me. That's what you all need to do. Now, I'm not saying ingest these things all the time and just ignore them and blow past them. And I'm certainly not saying do the solution Sambo shit. Because there's some people who will come on here and they'll start solution Samboing and they'll be like, what is your solutions and shit? What are you prepared to do about this? Nigga, what is your ass prepared to do about this? All you're going to do is sit there and whine at me about what I'm not doing, and you're not doing any damn thing. So my point in saying all that is the solution to all this is we need to do a few different things. We need to have people who are writers. And there's a lot of y'all in here who are on code. And I can tell by the stuff that you done pointed out as we've been talking. And we need to actually put out stories that put us in the light we deserve to be put in. Put out good stories, that is, not stories that are trope filled, so we can get messages out and we can control the way that audiences see the media that they see. But we need to put out things that actually represent us in a way that's positive, as much as we can, and also present good stories and good things that we can enjoy. And there's tons of shows there's tons of shows and movies that present that. Even if they have a trope here or there, they present that. Super Sale is a great show, a great black show. You have Sinners, which is a great movie, right? You actually have these things that are out there that are actually good pieces of content that showcase us in positive lights for the most part, or are good shows and good concepts that people can enjoy. So it is possible. It's just that you see so much bullshit, you think it's not. Agreed. When you're aware of things like actual racism, it's awkward when they beat around the bush to neutralize it. Exactly. I'm like, you're the dominant society. I know y'all's asses are racist. Y'all oppress every damn body. You don't have to try to convince me that you are not racist, because I know your ass is. So that's why I said you don't need to give me diversity in this kind of like fake token of appreciation. If you really want to do some shit, and for all my suspected white supremacists who are watching this shit right now, because I know there's some of you, and some of you who probably will watch this shit later. If you really, really wanted to put on for black people, what really putting on for black people looks like is investing into black people who are creating their own thing with no strings attached, putting money into their pockets and putting money into their pockets so that they can produce things. But I know y'all's asses aren't going to do that, because you all are hell-bent on oppressing people and staying in control of shit. So staying in control means even taking a bit of a hit so you don't look like you're someone who's racist. So that may mean that you may portray, one black person here or there, even if you're begrudged to do so. And then at the same time, portray a lot of white people still in there and make the white people seem like, characters that can be respected, while just making the black people throwaways. I already know what your damn get up is. So I just want to be clear with suspected white supremacist society, because I know that there are some of you all who are watching this right now, or will be watching this later from your trailer park while eating mayonnaise out of a jar with a spoon. So I want to be clear that I'm talking specifically to you when I say, if you really wanted to put on for black people, you would put money in black pockets so we can create our own damn thing. You wouldn't try to be these control freaks who try to portray us as silly ass clowns like you do all the damn time, and then make money from it and don't give a shit. So I just want to be clear about that but first of all. All right, let's see what other people said here. The show Jackass is full of degeneracy. Jerry Springer as well. See, Jackass is full of degeneracy. It's full of like them doing these weird ass stunts that black people wouldn't even damn dream of doing. So it's that. And Jerry Springer, it portrayed black and white people. But the thing I noticed is that like there was a lot of like trailer trash type of stuff going on as well too when I watched that. So yeah. Let's see here. The Cosby Show. I hated the Big Bang Theory because they excluded blacks and they acted as if blurs don't exist. I agree 100%. I noticed that too, because everybody like goes crazy over that show and Sheldon and all this other shit. And I'm like, this is just like, white people just trying to bask in them believing that they're cool, or the white people in the dominant society, that is. I'm just trying to think that they're just so damn cool. Let's see here. Facts. Yep. WWE is full of black tokenism. Don't even get me started on WWE tonight. I got a lot of shit to talk. Another thing that somebody brought up to me, and if you're in here, HBK, I'm sure that you probably are going to speak on this if you have not already on your platform. I got to catch up on your videos, but I need to talk about that Kevin Owens shit. I heard about them talking about the video surfaced of Kevin Owens busting out the N-word. So, we got, I've been telling people that there's a lot of suspected white supremacists in WWE, even wrestlers who are just beloved. But going back to the black tokenism, yeah, it's very prevalent in WWE, and it's not going nowhere. It's definitely not going nowhere. And that's why you don't even see any foundational black Americans that are in any major storylines in WWE right now. Samoans can act as hood as they want in WWE, but Crime Time was hated. The Samoans are basically just treated as diet black folks in WWE. It's a way of portraying our culture without putting us behind the culture. That's really all it is. The Sweet Life on deck has Phil Lewis. No, not the male. Kevin Owens' sloppy body ass said something racist. Yes. Kevin Owens did. It was another wrestler, Excalibur, who did as well too. B1 family, B1 Derek, appreciate you coming through, family. Going back though, yeah, Kevin Owens. Yeah, he said something racist, but there's a lot of suspected white supremacists in WWE. By the way, y'all. I mean, either suspected white supremacists or just blatant white supremacists, right? Because you got in WWE, you got yeah, somebody said Triple K, Triple K. Vince McMahon is a suspected white supremacist. Don't care what you say. I don't get into these damn arguments again about, well, Vince was better than Triple H. Blah blah. I don't want to hear that shit today. Vince McMahon was a suspected white supremacist. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a suspected white supremacist. Ric Flair is a suspected white supremacist. No, Ric Flair is one. Hulk Hogan is one. Randy Orton is a SWS, and Randy Orton is one of my favorite wrestlers, to be honest with you. And he is a suspected white supremacist. A lot of these wrestlers are suspected white supremacists, to be honest with you. Kevin Nash is a suspected white supremacist. Yeah, Rap God said him as well too. Let's see here. Hogan isn't a suspected white supremacist. Hogan is a white supremacist. Andre the Giant was racist too. I heard. Triple K refuses to give Carmelo the U.S. belt. I know. They gave that shit to Dragunov on the day he came back. I'm like, ain't that about a bitch? Dusty Rhodes is a suspected white supremacist. I agree. The Rock is a token friend to Stone Cold. The Rock and Stone Cold were presented somewhat as rivals, but Stone Cold Steve Austin is a suspected white supremacist as well too. A lot of people don't want to admit it because, again, he's another wrestler who I actually like. I think that as a wrestler, I think he's a cool wrestler, but he is a suspected white supremacist, if I'm being honest. Let's see here. Nobody wants Kevin Owens large seconds. I'm not surprised. Yeah, he did. What about Scott Hall? I haven't really done any research on Scott Hall per se. I'm not saying that he hasn't said anything. Again, a lot of these people have said a lot of racist things or done racist things. So if I found out, it wouldn't shock the hell out of me, to be honest with you. A lot of them have done racist shit. Going back to the title, so let's talk about why we should create more Black-centric shows. You know, the thing about Black-centric shows is that there's a lot of creativity that a lot of us as Black people and as foundational Black Americans especially, have out there that we can put out there. I've told you all before that I'm actually in the process of working on a comic book series that is not a comic book series, but a comic book world that is my version of DC and Marvel as of right now. On Instagram, I've actually gone live and I've talked about it a few times as well too. And I've talked about some of the characters. I have a cast of Black characters, like almost totally Black characters who are presented as heroes. I do have some non-Black characters as well too. And you're going to see why I portrayed some of these non-Black characters as well too. I have some non-Black characters who are going to be heroes in some of these comic books. But my point though is that I have some characters that I have been creating and working on and things like that myself. I just need an artist who can bring these things to life, and I just need the capital because it's going to take a lot to produce a lot of these comic books. But my point in making that message is that I think that it's important for us who are putting out stories. We get more into comic books. We get more into creating Black sitcoms. We get more into bringing out the lore that we want to bring out. But right now, I'm in the process, like I said, of creating. I technically have two comic book worlds. I told you all about the Flamer comic, which is its own world. And then I have like my own, again, version of DC and Marvel. And as time goes on, and then I also rack up more money and I have more time to actually fund this type of thing, you'll get to see some of the comic characters that I'll put out there. And this is something, by the way, y'all, a lot of y'all probably don't know this. I've been working on this now for probably like close to 10 years, right? It's been like around 2016, 2017. I've been like working on this type of thing. I have numbered it down. I have like 50-ish main comic character series. I have a couple thousand characters, 2,000 or 3,000 characters that I can put out there as well too. I have like 4 for sure right now that have at least 4 major arcs. I've written them. I know how these things are going to go. I know the villains. I know the heroes. I know what happens to who and how it happens and stuff like that. Again, I just have to have the time, the money, and the person who can actually bring it to life. And it's going to happen because I actually have, like, again, some great comic ideas that I think a lot of y'all who are in here who are comic fans like me are going to enjoy. That's a wonderful idea. Appreciate it. That's what's up. I can't remember, but you know about Black Sands? I do. I think that Black Sands is pretty cool. I like what they're doing. I also think that Black Sands has a similar mentality to a lot of us as well, too. I can tell by some of the messages that they put out there. I'm more in support of Black Sands than I am like the Rippaverse. I think that like, it's funny. I almost wanted to vomit, y'all. Somebody, and I can't remember who it was. It could have been one of y'all who did this shit, but somebody compared me to Eric July and was like, "You kind of remind me of Eric July." I almost wanted to barf, y'all. What you mean? I remind you of Eric damn July? I am nothing like young Ripper or whatever the hell his name is. Like, that dude is a straight Sambo. But going back though, I'm more in support of that than I am the Rippaverse. Just because I know, like, kind of what time Black Sands is on. Now, again, I do know that there's some Black people, I'm not saying it's him, but this is me just looking at the other side, playing devil's advocate to myself. There are some people who, they kind of capitulate to the dominant society because they're trying to get in good with them, earn money from them so they can do their own thing and put back on for Black people. I'm not saying that Eric July is trying to do that. But a lot of times, like, you'll have these people who will present themselves as Sambos who will do that in order for them to go and try to make power moves later. Now, I haven't seen a lot of examples of that coming to fruition, but at the same time, I do know that some of these people are doing that type of thing. I've suspected that Jesse Lee Peterson might be doing that a couple times too, because he's just too much of a damn Sambo. It's like, it's almost a goddamn act, to be quite honest with you. It's like amazing that somebody could be, and he says amazing all the time. That shit is funny. It's amazing that somebody could be that damn coonish. Like, it's almost like not even believable. Y'all know what I'm saying, though. On your stream, you can explain about white versions of perceived Black sitcoms. I think that's a great idea, Rap God. Matter of fact, now that you said, I'm going to go ahead and take note of that so that I can make sure I do that for like maybe in one of the streams, or present that as a topic that y'all can vote on and whatnot. But going back though, yeah, like this is my solution that I would present to seeing this type of image, that we're probably going to need to put on more of our own stories. And then the other side of that is we also need supporters. We need people who are going to go and who are going to support some of these independent Black creatives like myself, who are going to put all of these great stories out there. We need individuals who are going to go on and they're going to purchase these comic books and invest in these types of people and things like that. Because, like I said, my goal is to give authentic Black content. I know what it's like to be a blurred who wants to see themselves in a lot of the comic characters that we see, but also recognizes too that there's a lot of racism that's surrounded by the characters that are already being created. So why not create your own characters and be in control of the way the stories and the narrative goes, and then have these types of things that appeal to a lot of Black nerds like myself. So that's really what that's about. Let's see. Damn, that's dope. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, man. I've been working on the Flamer comics since like 2010, I think. So I have 7 arcs prepared for that. And then for the other comic book series that I'm or comic book world that I'm creating, like I said, I've been working on that since 2016, 2017 sometime. Got a lot of characters. I just need time and time, money, and an artist, and I'm good. I've written a lot of scripts already. So I'm not scriptless. I'm not just telling you some shit that I came up with yesterday. But at the same time, like it's got to like actually come to fruition and dematerialize in a way that y'all are able to see. Eric July, pause. Yeah, Eric July I'm assuming you probably don't know who he is, but he's like this dude named Young Ripper, or I think that's his name, Young Ripper, on YouTube. And like he's on YouTube just samboing it the hell up. Or was. I don't know if he's as present as he used to be. And he has his own comic brand called the Rippaverse, and he sells comic books. He has a comic called Isom or something like that. I think it's the comics, they're kind of expensive. It's like $36, but it might come with like a few of them. But my point is that he has like comic books out like for purchase. And because he built such a big platform that people have gravitated to, specifically a lot of suspected white supremacists, you know, he was able to build his own comic book as a result of the money that he's earned from YouTube. And there's other things that he probably got deals on and stuff like that. It probably isn't just that, but that's my point. Speaking of that, told y'all I got to 10K. And one of the things that I want to work on is seeing what brand deals that I can actually do. You know, what other Black people can I put on and stuff like that in the process of still like earning money and income and things like that. Because like I told y'all before, my main goal is to take the things that I'm doing, give you all quality information, monetize it as much as possible, and then pour it back into the projects that I do and put out good and quality content for all of y'all to enjoy. Because really the idea, again, of the Cool Colas brand is to entertain, educate, and also empower people all at the same time. That's the whole goal of this channel. That's why a lot of you all have a camaraderie with me. We're all here to try to, you know, talk about and spread awareness about anti-Black racism, but we also talk about a lot of things that we actually enjoy and giving a good analysis on some of the things that we've actually seen. So that's why it's important for me to create things that are actually positive. And things that show us in the light we deserve to be shown in, because we know that the dominant society is not truly going to do that. Friends living single, yep, exactly. Yeah, but I've heard and seen millions of times about what happened between the two of them and friends jocking certain episodes and episode scenes and things like that from living single and taking jokes and all types. I already know. Lil Yachty, another one too. He hangs with Drake, who wore a blackface. Don't even get me started on Drake's ass. Drake's already down bad enough after that incredible loss that he took to Kendrick Lamar in that beef. Milestone Comics was sabotaged by DC. Of course it was. Yep. Young Ripper always supported white supremacy when I saw him. He did. I haven't seen him a lot. I think, didn't he quit YouTube or something like that? Y'all, I don't know. Like, update me on that. I thought he quit YouTube. Air July is a hardcore libertarian who are anti-Black. Yes, he is. He is. Air July is a straight Sambo from what I've seen. He is a straight Sambo. So when somebody said you remind me of him, I'm like, what the hell did I do? Like, did you see me munching on buttermilk biscuits? Like, how the hell did I get the title of being similar to Eric Damn July? I mean, this is a Negro who is literally, he literally is a buck dancing Sambo. And he looks like he hasn't really taken a damn bath in about a month. I look like I'm very clean and like I actually shower. First of all, let's start there. Number two, I'm not no Sambo. So whoever said that shit, I was like, oh my God, that damn near ruined my day, y'all. I was like, what the hell? Like, how did they get that perception of me? Like what? Let me go back to see what the hell I did to make them think that I'm like that Negro. Like that's what I wanted to know. Shoot. Let's see. Stephen Knight is the worst. Who is Stephen Knight? Tell me who Stephen Knight is. I just searched him up a second ago and he's still on YouTube. I saw that he posted a week ago. So that's my take on that. But I haven't seen none of his content yet, and I'm probably not going to. Don't. He's a Sambo. He's a total Sambo. I watched his stuff. And then this Negro has the nerve in one of his videos to have Malcolm X, a picture of Malcolm X in his background, while sitting around talking about how Black people can be racist and trying to debunk that. And I'm like, dog, like that's just a damn embarrassment. So when I saw that video, that told me a lot about his mentality, Derek, since you had brought that up. Let's see. Stephen Knight is a Black conservative who defends Charlie Kirk. Oh, he's one of them. Okay. Stephen, he's the dude that white people point to and say, that's my Black friend. Okay. I got you. Okay. Stephen Knight is terrible, bro. I gotta check out this Sambo if that's the case, because I believe y'all, but I'm just saying, like, I actually did not know about him, but yeah, he sounds like he's a real Sambo. So yeah, but going back, y'all. So the point and the crux of what I'm trying to say here is, you know, we need to just either be the individual who's putting out like positive content for Black people, especially foundational Black Americans, or we need to be the people who are going to be the supporters of the people who are putting these things out. That is the main thing that we need to be doing here. And that's why I say that even with me, I'm going to put out quality content for you all. And because I'm steady, always working on things. I mean, yeah, I'm producing content for you all. And yeah, I'm a grown ass man living my own life and doing my things just like everybody else. But I'm also real busy. I'm constantly working on projects. I'm constantly working on my books. And my wife will tell you too, if she's still tuning in and whatnot. I'm constantly working on books, constantly working on my comic, constantly working on lectures. There's all types of things that I do throughout the day. So like I want to make sure I'm putting on good and quality content for you all. So I'm going to keep doing that as I'm also making content for you all on YouTube and whatnot. Let's see here. He said that he said the far black women from Sinners was terrible. And he wanted the pretty white girl to be this. Oh, hell. Oh, he one of them. He's damn near one of the mentally ill Sambos. Okay, this is a dude who's trying to be famous. He wants white approval to the T. Like that's what it sounds like. He's got to be one of them. And he's married to, of course, he's married to a damn white woman. Of course. Shit, like that is not surprising. Of course his ass is. Okay, I gotta check out this Steven Knight or the Steven whatever Knight Sambo dude. Sambo Knight. I'm gonna have to check him out. But anyway, y'all, listen, I've been on here about an hour and a half. I gotta get up out of here. I got some things that I got to do today, some stuff I need to, do with my wife and stuff like that, and some other things I gotta take care of and whatnot. So I got to spend some family time and also work on some things for you guys as well, too. Like I told you, I am going to be out of town starting on Wednesday. So I definitely am not going to be able to have a chance to do any lives or put out a lot of content. You may not really see a whole lot even on Instagram like that. But at the same time, Machiavelli Mills. Okay, he said, check out Machiavelli Mills. I will. But going back, I'm not going to be able to put out a lot of content. So I'm going to try to give y'all as much as I can over this coming up week. That way you guys have some stuff to kind of tune into. The things to be on the lookout for potentially. These are the things that I'm thinking right now. I'm just going to try to figure out when I want to put out first. First thing, I know there's a post request that somebody had for me to review the movie Jungle Fever. I'm going to be doing that. I'm also going to be talking about the cult of nice white supremacy. And then there may be some other topics I may surprise y'all with. So, yeah, that's what I got. But all right, y'all, you guys have a good night. I appreciate y'all coming through. This was a very lively and productive conversation. Definitely enjoy this live. I hope y'all did as well, too. If you're watching this on the playback, then I would love for you to like, subscribe, share, and then also hit the bell icon, of course, so you can get notifications for whenever I come out with new content or lives on this channel. Other than that, y'all, I will talk to y'all later. Peace out.